Amidst the harsh desert, a wonder rises to change the destiny of a land and a nation. Hoover Dam is a story of concrete and engineering. But before we understand how it was built, we must go back to 1931, when America was sinking into its worst economic crisis in historical memory. This massive wall stands 221 meters tall, containing enough concrete to build a two-lane highway from San Francisco all the way to New York. In 1931, the unemployment rate hit 25%. Millions were desperate, and over 21,000 people applied for just 5,000 available positions at the dam. These workers faced a choice between starvation and the brutal desert heat of 50 degrees Celsius, waiting weeks for a chance to be hired for work. While the lake looks peaceful now, at its creation required conquering one of the most volatile rivers on Earth, the mighty Colorado, which once destroyed everything nearby. This is not just an irrigation dam. It is where a desperate nation decided to build something grand to prove they still possessed the power to achieve. Join us as we explore the lives of 21,000 people and the engineer who dedicated his entire career to preparing for this historic, monumental moment. To understand why men risked their lives, we must understand the Colorado. It was a natural weapon that killed and destroyed for centuries without any mercy. In 1905, the river breached its banks, creating the massive Salton Sea and drowning farms and towns. It took 2 years to stop the relentless flood. 7 states, including California and Arizona, fought over this single water source. Today, 40 million people depend on it, yet the supply is dwindling very fast. The river only provides enough water for 15 million people at current rates. This conflict existed long before the first shovel ever touched the dry desert. Engineers in the 1930s studied the vertical walls of Black Canyon, seeking a way to close the gap and tame the beast that was the Colorado. Among them was Frank Crowe, a brilliant lead engineer who spent 20 years studying this terrain, waiting for the one chance to build his ultimate masterpiece. When handed the project, he simply said, "I have waited for this job all my life." His determination would drive the project through impossible, deadly conditions. The task was considered impossible: to block the Black Canyon. It required a combination of brutal labor and revolutionary engineering techniques never seen before in history. Crowe took the project in 1931, during the worst phase of the Great Depression, finding a workforce willing to do anything just to earn a living. What followed was one of the most extraordinary labor stories in American history, where man and machine fought against the raw power of the scorching desert. As the first blasts echoed through the canyon walls, the battle began. Thousands of men descended into the heat to reshape the landscape forever with their hands. High scalers dangled from ropes hundreds of feet above the canyon floor. Their job was to remove loose rock to reveal the solid foundation underneath the cliff. These men were the highest paid on site due to the extreme risk. Many were World War I veterans, already accustomed to danger and life-threatening situations. One slip meant certain death. Yet they worked with precision, swinging across the rocks like acrobats, drilling holes for the dynamite that would shape the dam. The sound of dynamite was constant. They worked 24 hours a day, in shifts, under the burning sun and the cold desert nights to stay on schedule. Inside the diversion tunnels, the air was thick with carbon monoxide from trucks. It was a suffocating environment where many workers struggled to breathe every single day. The concrete was poured in individual blocks to dissipate heat. This was a stroke of engineering genius, preventing the entire structure from cracking under its weight. If poured all at once, the chemical heat would have boiled the river water. They installed a complex system of cooling pipes inside every single block. By circulating cold water through these pipes, they controlled the temperature perfectly, allowing the concrete to set without creating dangerous internal stresses or fatal cracks. Every block was carefully monitored. Frank Crowe pushed the progress relentlessly, knowing that finishing early meant a massive $5,000 daily bonus for his company. But the human cost was high. Officially, 112 men died. However, historians believe many more perished from carbon monoxide poisoning labeled as simple pneumonia. Crow knew the risks, but focused on the deadline. His drive resulted in the dam being completed 2 years ahead of schedule, an unprecedented feat in engineering. The massive curve of the dam began to take shape against the red rocks. It was a testament to human will, forged in sweat, blood, and iron. In February 1935, the final bucket of concrete was poured. The laborers looked upon their work knowing they had built something that would outlast them all. Then they opened the gates and let the Colorado River do the rest. For the next 6 years, a miracle slowly occurred in the heart of the desert. As the water began to rise, the landscape changed forever. The once angry river was finally tamed, held back by millions of tons of cold, hard concrete. Lake Mead was born, becoming the largest man-made reservoir in the United States. It was a site of incredible engineering triumph that defined the 20th century. Year by year, the water swallowed the Red Mountains, creating a deep blue ocean where only dry desert sand and heat-scorched rocks had existed for eons. By 1941, the lake was full, containing 35 cubic kilometers of water. That is enough to cover the entire state of Pennsylvania in a foot of water. It provided life-giving water to 25 million people and irrigated 400,000 hectares of farmland, turning the desert into a lush and productive garden. For decades, it was a paradise for recreation and a symbol of American prosperity. Tourists flocked to see the blue water contrasting against the red cliffs. But look closely at the edges. A white ring of mineral deposits, known as the bathtub ring, reveals a disturbing truth about the health of the reservoir. This ring is dozens of meters high, a marking where the water level used to be. It is visible evidence of a crisis that is growing more severe. In 1983, Lake Mead was at 100% capacity. By 2022, it had dropped to just 25%, the lowest level since it was first filled. The drought has lasted over 20 years. As the water recedes, old secrets are revealed, from sunken boats to the original foundations of long-submerged desert towns. If the water drops below the minimum threshold, the intake towers will no longer be able to reach the water, threatening the supply for millions of people. The white ring grows wider and higher every year. It tells a story that Frank Crow and his team could never have predicted back in 1931. The Southwest is getting hotter and drier. The balance between human consumption and nature's supply is now dangerously out of alignment, causing concern for the future. Experts watch the levels daily, calculating the remaining days before the dam reaches dead pool status, where no water can flow through the massive structure anymore. What was once a vast inland sea is shrinking back into the canyon. The miracle of the 1930s is facing its greatest challenge in nearly a century. Yet, even as the water drops, the dam continues its other vital mission, generating the electricity that powers the lights and industries of the great American West. Inside the power plant, 17 massive turbines spin relentlessly. They convert the power of falling water into light for millions of homes across the entire Southwest region. Each turbine weighs over 100 tons and operates with 90% efficiency. This was clean, renewable energy long before the world even recognized the concept's importance. The sheer pressure of a 221-meter column of water drives these giants. It is a symphony of physics and engineering working in perfect harmony. This energy thap sang Los Angeles in the 1930s, making it possible for millions to live and thrive in the middle of a once uninhabitable coastal desert. High-voltage lines stretch from the dam across the wilderness, carrying the heartbeat of the Colorado to cities that would not exist without this vital power source. Without Hoover Dam, there would be no modern Las Vegas, no Phoenix, no sprawling suburbs in the desert. The entire American Southwest was built on this foundation. Today, Las Vegas is a city of 2 million people, a glittering oasis of light. But its existence depends entirely on the water and power from this dam. Even the iconic fountains of the Strip are a reminder of the water that flows from the reservoir, a resource that is now more precious than gold. But the question no one asked in 1935 is now unavoidable. What happens when there is not enough water left to turn these massive, heavy steel turbines? Operators monitor the power output closely. As water levels drop, the turbines lose efficiency, producing less electricity for the growing population that needs it every day. The dam is a masterpiece of the past, but it now stands at the center of a future crisis that will require even greater human ingenuity to solve. On Dedication Day in 1935, President Roosevelt called this the greatest engineering achievement in history. It was a moment of supreme national pride and hope for everyone. For a country emerging from the darkness of the Depression, the dam was a beacon of light. It proved that America could still build something grand and eternal. We honor the men who died here. 112 names are etched in history, including John Tierney and his son Patrick, who died 13 years apart. They died on the same day, December 20th, working on the same project. 2 generations of one family sacrificed to bring water and life to the desert. Today, that sacrifice faces the reality of climate change. The 50-meter white ring is a silent monument to 20 years of record-breaking drought and human overconsumption. In 2021, the U.S. government declared a water shortage for the first time. States like Arizona and Nevada must now cut their water usage significantly to survive. Las Vegas now recycles 99% of its indoor water. It is a desperate race against time to adapt to a world where the Colorado no longer flows. Engineers are looking at radical solutions, from massive pipelines from the Mississippi to desalination plants on the Pacific coast. None of these solutions will be easy. Agriculture, which uses the majority of the water, may have to shrink. Hard choices lie ahead for the 40 million people who call this arid region their home. Hoover Dam is more than just concrete and steel. It is an epic of human ambition to conquer nature, a dream that is now meeting its limits. From above, the dam still looks invincible. But the shrinking blue water behind it tells a different story about our relationship with the planet's most vital resource. The sound of water through the turbines is getting quieter. It is a reminder that nature is never truly conquered. It is only temporarily managed by our hands. As the sun sets over Black Canyon, the legacy of 1931 remains. We built a wonder to solve our problems, but we created new ones for tomorrow. Hoover Dam stands firm, a 20th century miracle. But the question for the next generation is not how to build bigger, but how to live with much less. The journey of the Colorado continues, and so does ours. As we face the future, we must remember the lessons learned in the depths of Black Canyon.